What is the Middle East in the middle of?
At one time, it was common to refer to the Near, Middle, and Far East. Though two of the terms have fallen into disuse, the Middle East is still commonly used. The Near East, at its greatest extent in the 16th century, once referred to the Ottoman Empire, which included Eastern Europe, Western Asia, and Northern Africa. The Middle East referred to the area from Iran to India to Myanmar, formerly Burma. The Far East used to refer to Southeast Asia, China, Japan, and Korea.
Which country has the longest coastline?
The coastline of Canada and its associated islands is the longest in the world. About 151,400 miles, 243,603 kilometers, long. Russia, which is the largest country in the world, has the second longest coastline at about 23,400 miles, 37,651 kilometers.
Who was the greatest explorer of the Arab world?
Known as the Muslim Marco Polo, Ibn Battuta, 1304–1369, explored much of Africa and Asia. In his lifetime, Ibn Battuta traveled over 75,000 miles, 120,000 kilometers. Gaining the reputation of the most traveled man on earth.
Why would countries want colonies?
Colonies are a source of raw materials, new land, wider trading opportunities, and militaristic expansion for the mother country. Colonies were established around the world from the 16th century through 19th century by powerful Western nations. After World War II, the concept of colonization was widely attacked as an exploitive policy. Though most colonies were granted independence, many countries still control colonies around the world.
Are there any new discoveries of cities that predate Mesopotamian urban areas?
Every year, scientists uncover evidence of cities long ago flooded by the rising sea and reclamation of coastline, where archaeological evidence suggests cities even older than those in the Sumer Valley once existed. A recent marine archaeological expedition uncovered traces of a city beneath the sea off the coast of Gujarat, in northwestern India, and found pieces of carved wood that was carbon dated to 7500 BCE.
Do Caucasians come from the Caucasus Mountains?
in the latter half of the 19th century. Scientists attempted to divide the world's peoples into races. Each race was defined by the color of its skin, a process that was laced with stereotypes. These scientists used the term Caucasian for white people because they believed that the region of the Caucasus Mountains of Southwest Asia was their origin. Since that time, we have learned that there is but one human race and that it originated in Africa.
What is the highest railroad in the world?
The Qinghai-Tibet Railroad is the highest railroad in the world. Climbing to more than 16,737 feet, 5,072 meters. It connects Lhasa, Tibet, to the rest of China on 709 miles, 1,142 kilometers, of track. Because of the high altitudes of the sections of the track, each rail car includes a supply of oxygen for its passengers. More than 1.5 million people used the train in its first year of operation in July 2006.
How fast is the population growing?
The highest growth rate recorded was around 2% in the late 1950s. This rate has been in decline and is now less than 1% per year.
What is a nautical mile?
Used for measuring ocean-based distances, a nautical mile is equivalent to approximately 6,076 feet. 1,852 meters, or 1.15 miles, 1.85 kilometers. The speed of ships is measured in knots. 1 knot is equivalent to 1 nautical mile per hour.
What is the northernmost landmass in the world?
Cape Morris Jesup, located in Greenland's Peary Land, is the northernmost point of land in the world. The cape is at 83 degrees 38 minutes north.
What is a gypsy?
Gypsies are nomadic tribes that travel throughout Europe. Though they once were thought to have originated in Egypt. Hence the European name for them. Linguistic studies have placed their origin in India. These traveling tribes have been subject to centuries of persecution, including gypsy hunts and extermination at the Auschwitz death camp.
How did a map help stop the spread of cholera?
During an 1854 cholera outbreak in London, a physician named John Show mapped the distribution of cholera deaths. His map showed that there was a high concentration of deaths in an area surrounding one specific water pump. Water had to be hand-pumped and carried in buckets at the time. When the handle was taken off of the water pump, the number of cholera deaths plummeted. When it was determined that cholera could be spread through water, future epidemics were curbed. This was the beginning of medical geography.
Who is an Ayatollah?
The title of Ayatollah was originally used for outstanding Shiite scholars. But in 1979 Iran went through a period of fundamentalism and replaced the secular Shah. The former leader, with the Ayatollah, a religious and political leader of the nation. Under the Ayatollah's rule, traditional social values were mandated.
How do CFCs destroy ozone?
When CFCs rise up in the atmosphere to the ozone layer, ultraviolet rays break them down into bromine and chlorine, which destroy ozone molecules.
What is the National Geographic Roper Public Affairs Geographic Literacy Study?
This study assesses the geographic knowledge of young American adults between the ages of 18 and 24. The survey also asks respondents how much they think they know about geography and other subjects, as well as their views on the importance of geographic, technological and cultural knowledge in today's world.
Where did Bombay go?
In 1996, India changed the name of the third largest metropolitan area. Population 19 million, from Bombay to Mumbai.
What is a thunderstorm?
Thunderstorms are localized atmospheric phenomena that produce heavy rain, thunder and lightning, and sometimes hail. They are formed in cumulonimbus clouds, big and bulbous, that rise many miles into the sky. Most of the southeastern United States has over 40 days of thunderstorm activity each year. And there are about 100,000 thunderstorms across the country annually. Thunderstorms are different from typical rainstorms because of their lightning, thunder, and occasional hail.
Does India have a population control program similar to China's?
Though India does not limit births to one child per family, It does have one of the oldest population control programs in the world. The program, begun in the 1950s, encourages the use of birth control and family planning. And the Indian government provides grants to people who undergo sterilization surgeries. Though India's population is growing more slowly, 1.46%. The world's population growth rate is still lower, at 1.17%.
What are steps?
Common throughout Russia, Asia, and Central Europe, a steppe is a dry, short grass plain that can be flat or hilly. While most steppes were once forested areas, cultivation and overgrazing by animals have left only short grasses and barren landscapes. In 1992, the two republics of Czechoslovakia agreed to divide into two independent countries, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. The dissolution of Czechoslovakia was a peaceful one.
Why does Romania have so many orphans?
The draconian population policies of Romania, which forbade birth control and abortion and required women to have 5 children, led to the birth of far more children than could be supported by the country. The population policies were implemented by communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, who ruled from 1965 until his capture and execution in 1989. The result of his policies has been thousands of Romanian children living in orphanages. Elections were held in 1990 and Romania is now struggling to improve conditions.
Where is Ouagadougou?
Ouagadougou, pronounced Ouagadougou, is the capital of the West African country of Burkina Faso. The city, with 500,000 residents, is home to the University of Ouagadougou.
What is the highest navigable lake in the world?
Lake Titicaca, located on the border between Peru and Bolivia, is the highest navigable lake in the world, with an elevation of 12,500 feet, 3,810 meters. Though there are higher lakes in the world, Lake Titicaca is the highest one in which boats can sail. Lake Titicaca was the center of Incan civilization.
What is the Fujita scale of tornado intensity?
The Fujita scale measures the strength of a tornado based on observed damage and effects. The scale ranges from F0, a weak tornado, through F6, an almost inconceivable tornado, having close to no chance of actually occurring. About 75% of all tornadoes are weak, F0 F1, while only 1% are violent, F4 F5.
How old is the oldest known map?
Circa 2700 B. CE, the Sumerians drew sketch maps in clay tablets that represented their cities. These maps are the oldest known maps.
How did American slavery help found Liberia?
In 1822 the American Colonization Society succeeded in founding a colony on the western coast of Africa for freed American slaves. The colony was named Liberia from the Latin word liber, which means free. This colony became independent in July 1847, and was Africa's first independent country.
Which state borders only one other state?
Bordering New Hampshire, Maine is the only state that borders just one other state.
Why is it important to have an out-of-state contact in case of a disaster?
It's usually easier to call outside of a disaster area than inside one. By identifying a relative or friend who lives outside of your home state as an emergency contact, your family can ensure communication following a disaster.
What are the Apennines?
The Apennines are a mountain range extending from northern to southern Italy for approximately 600 miles, 1,000 kilometers. The highest point is a place called Corno Grande, which reaches a summit at 9,500 feet, 2,912 meters.
How has the word Bohemian come to mean an unconventional person?
Although Bohemia is a region in the Czech Republic, the term Bohemian is sometimes used to refer to an artistic or eccentric person. This term comes from the misguided belief that gypsies, Roma, originated in Bohemia. It is now known that gypsies originated in India rather than Bohemia. The stereotypes that are often attributed to gypsies were then attributed to people from Bohemia, or Bohemians. Now, the word Bohemian with a lowercase b is used to refer to an unconventional person, while the same word with a capital B refers to a person from Bohemia.
Has global warming affected the ice on Mt. Kilimanjaro?
Global warming has indeed affected the glacial ice on top of Mt. Kilimanjaro in Tanzania and has caused as much as 80% of the ice to permanently disappear. Scientists believe that by the year 2020 there will be no more snow on top of the mountain. How was Mt?
What's the big red rock in the middle of Australia?
The big, red, sandstone monolith in the center of Australia is called Uluru. Its indigenous name, it was previously called Ayers Rock. It is the world's largest monolith, approximately 1.5 miles. 2.4 kilometers, wide and 1/5 of a mile, 1,100 feet 335 meters, high.
What was Pangaea?
About 250 million years ago. All of the land on Earth was lumped together into one large continent known as Pangaea. Faults and rifts broke the land masses apart and pushed them away from each other. The continents slowly moved across the Earth to their present positions, and they continue to move today. The Indian subcontinent, composed of India and its neighbors, continues to push into Asia and create the Himalayas.
How many islands make up the Philippines?
The Philippines are composed of 7,100 islands. Only 1,000 of these are inhabited and 2,500 still remain unnamed. The islands are divided into three main groups: the Luzon region in the north, the Visayan region in the middle, and the Mindanao and Sulu region in the south.
Who decides which names go on maps?
In the United States, the U.S. Board on Geographic Names, BGN, approves the official names and spellings of cities, rivers, lakes, and even foreign countries. If a town would like to change its name, it must petition the BGN for approval. Upon approval, the name is officially changed and updated in federal government gazettes and records, which official and commercial map makers use for their maps.
What is Europe's oldest independent state?
San Marino claims to have been founded in the year 301 C. Its first constitution was established in 1600. San Marino is located on Mt. Titano in Italy and, at 24 square miles, 62 square kilometers in area, is one of the world's smallest independent countries.
Why did early humans have no need for hours, days, weeks, or months?
Because early humans were hunters and gatherers, they had little need to know exact time. What was essential was an understanding of the seasonal migration of animals and varieties of plant life.
Does a cashmere sweater come from Kashmir?
The Kashmir goats, which make the fine wool known as cashmere, do come from the Kashmir region in India, a disputed area not controlled by any one nation. This region, which is located in northern India bordering on Pakistan, is plagued by violence and unrest. In 1947 the British decided to split the colony of India into two separate countries, one Hindu, India, and one Islamic, Pakistan. The state of Jammu Kashmir has a mixed population of Hindus and Muslims, which has led to conflict within the region. India and Pakistan have waged 3 wars over this region, and sporadic violence continues today.
What is the Organization of African Unity?
Founded in 1963, the Organization of African Unity helped strengthen and defend African unity across the continent. The 53 member countries sought to increase development and economic unity within and between member countries. It was disbanded in 2002 by South African President Thabo Mbeki when the new African Union was created with the same 53 member states. The African Union seeks to integrate political and socio-economic interests of the member states, speaking with a common voice on issues involving Africa. Its headquarters is in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
How was Niagara Falls stopped?
The water from the Niagara River falls over 2 waterfalls, divided by Goat Island. Only 6% of the water from the Niagara River falls over American Falls, while Horseshoe Falls, or Canadian Falls, carries the majority of the water. In 1969, a temporary dam was built to divert the water from American Falls to Horseshoe Falls for several months in order to study the erosion endemic to both waterfalls.
Who was Simon Bolivar?
In the early 19th century, Simon Bolivar led the fight in South America for independence from Spain. He is revered as a hero among South Americans for his role in the independence of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Bolivia was named in honor of Bolivar.
What is the difference between an ocean and a sea?
While a sea can be any body of salt water, it usually refers to a body of salt water partially or completely enclosed by land. Oceans, though they can also be referred to as seas, are large areas of salt water, unobstructed by continents.
Who provides food to North Korea today?
The top exporters of food to North Korea are China, Japan, South Korea, and the United States.
What is Mercosur?
The Southern Cone Common Market, also known as Mercosur, is a trade group that includes Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. It was established in 1995 to reduce trade barriers between those four countries and to promote economic unity.
What was Babylonia?
Babylonia was an ancient country along the Euphrates River, in what is now Iraq. It began in the 21st century BCE and was led by King Hammurabi in the 18th century BCE.
What is the longest river in the United States?
The Missouri-Mississippi River is the longest in the United States. Approximately 3,860 miles, 6,211 kilometers, in length.
What is the longest river in Europe?
The Volga River, which lies entirely within Russia, is Europe's longest river. The Volga River flows 2,290 miles, 3,685 kilometers. From the Valdai Hills, near the city of Rzhev, into the Caspian Sea.
What is the world's largest tropical rainforest?
The Amazon forest is the world's largest tropical rainforest. It occupies 1/3 of Brazil's land area and receives over 80 inches, 200 centimeters, of rain a year. The rainforest loses 15,000 square miles, 38,850 square kilometers of forest each year because of clear cutting. The Amazon rainforest is home to about 90% of the Earth's animal and plant species and is a major producer of the world's oxygen.
Which country has the lowest maximum elevation in the world?
The Maldives has a natural maximum elevation of only 7.5 feet, 2.3 meters, above sea level. The problem is that sea levels over the past 100 years are rising at a rate of approximately 9.75 inches. 20 centimeters, per year, which may make the country, or parts of it, disappear entirely. The 2004 Asian tsunami caused the ocean to completely cover parts of the Maldives.
What is the oldest college in the United States?
Harvard University is the oldest college or university in the United States. It was founded in 1636 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston.
What is The Hague?
The Hague is a city on the west coast of the Netherlands with an approximate population of 450,000. The Hague is the home of many international organizations, such as the International Court of Justice.
Which state has the most boat registrations?
Florida has 946,000 registered boats, followed by Michigan, with 945,000, and California, with 894,000.
What is ethnic cleansing?
Ethnic cleansing is the forced deportation or murder of people in certain ethnic groups within a country or region. Ethnic cleansing has been a part of world history for many millennia. Infamous examples of ethnic cleansing include the mass killings in the former Yugoslavia in the 1990s. The mass killings in Rwanda in 1994, and the Armenian genocide in Turkey in the 1930s.
Is the Great Wall of China the only man-made object that can be seen from space?
No, it is not. Besides the Great Wall of China, there are many other man-made structures visible with the naked eye from space, such as urban areas and highways.
How much of the Earth is usually covered by clouds?
At any given time, about 1/2 of the planet is covered by clouds.
How thick is Greenland's ice sheet?
Greenland's ice sheet is more than 2 miles thick.
Who are the Bedouin?
The Bedouins are nomadic tribes that have inhabited areas of the Middle East and Northern Africa for centuries, grazing their goat and camel herds. The Bedouins travel wide distances and frequently cross international borders. Many Middle Eastern countries are attempting to halt the crossings. If these countries are successful, the Bedouin culture would be dramatically changed and perhaps even completely destroyed.
What do B, C, and CE stand for?
To secularize the calendar, the terms B, CE and CE have come into use to replace BC and AD respectively. BCE means before Common Era and CE stands for Common Era.
What is the world's most visited mountain?
Japan's Mt. Fuji, a sacred and important volcano to the Japanese, is the country's most popular tourist spot and the world's most visited mountain. Mt. Fuji, which is shaped almost like a perfect cone, rises to 12,388 feet, 3,776 meters, and last erupted in 1708.
Which countries restrict internet access to what is deemed unfavorable content by their governments?
The following countries filter or restrict content that their citizens can access on the internet: Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Myanmar, China, Ethiopia, India, Iran, Jordan, Libya, Morocco, Oman, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, South Korea, Sudan, Syria, Tajikistan, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, and Yemen.
What is pinyin?
Pinyin is a new system for transliterating Chinese into the Roman alphabet. It replaced the Waite-Giles system in 1958. When the Chinese government started using Pinyin for external press announcements, it has gradually gained acceptance, and is the reason why we now call the Chinese capital Beijing instead of Peking, a Waite-Giles transliteration.
What are the largest Canadian urban areas?
Toronto, 5.1 million people, Montreal, 3.6 million, and Vancouver, 2.1 million, are Canada's largest urban areas.
How did the United States reach its present form?
The United States began as 13 British colonies on the Atlantic coast. In 1783, the United States gained the Northwest Territory. The area encompassing what is now Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Spain and the United States agreed on the northern boundary of Florida in 1798, and the United States then took control of the Mississippi Territory. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase, which included most of the area west of the Mississippi, doubled the size of the country. In 1845, the independent Republic of Texas was annexed and Spain ceded Florida to the United States. In 1846, the Oregon Territory, which included Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, was officially designated with a treaty between the United States and the United Kingdom. The Mexican War of 1846 to 1848 led to the secession of California, Utah Territory, and New Mexico Territory to the United States. The Gadsden Purchase of 1853 added southern Arizona. Alaska was purchased from Russia in 1867 and, finally, Hawaii was annexed by the United States in 1898.
Who was Vancouver, Canada, named after?
In the 1790s, George Vancouver, who had previously accompanied James Cook on his explorations for Terra Australis Incognito and the Northwest Passage, explored and mapped the Pacific coast of North America. Vancouver circumnavigated Canada's Vancouver Island, and it and the city of Vancouver, founded 1881, were named for him.
What is the smallest country in Southeast Asia?
The Republic of Singapore is the smallest country in Southeast Asia. It covers only 272 square miles, 707 square kilometers, of land.
How many people speak Arabic in the world?
Approximately 200 million people are native speakers of Arabic, and an additional 200 million are non-native speakers.
What is the official neckwear of Arizona?
Like an official flower or animal, each state can add additional official symbols for their state. The official neckwear of Arizona is the bolo tie.
How long did it take for the world population to double in size?
From 1959 to 1999, the population went from 3 billion to over 6 billion.
What is a desert?
A desert is an area of light rainfall. Deserts usually have little plant or animal life due to the dry conditions. Contrary to the popular image, deserts are not just warm, sand-swept areas like the Sahara Desert, but can also be frigid areas like Antarctica, one of the driest places on Earth.
Why has Afghanistan been contested and invaded so many times?
Afghanistan sits at a crossroads linking Asia with the Middle East. For millennia, it was the major transit point along the Silk Road, which brought goods from Asia to and from the Middle East. In recent times, it has been treated as a geographically strategic location. Because of its potential for influencing the policies of countries in both regions. It is an ethnically diverse region that is home to many tribes and cultures, all of whom have been vying for some form of control or voice in the way in which the country is governed. Therefore, in the past several hundred years, major geopolitical players have sought to control, occupy, or colonize this country. Much of what we see happening in Afghanistan today has roots in conflicts dating back many centuries.
Which countries colonized Africa?
Seven European countries colonized Africa: Belgium, France, Italy, Germany, Portugal, Spain, and the United Kingdom.
How does medical geography help control the spread of diseases?
Medical geographers and epidemiologists, scientists who study diseases and epidemics, use mapping to monitor the spread of diseases and locate the source of a disease. For example, by mapping a group of inordinately high numbers of cancer patients in a city, we may find that all live close to a factory that has been releasing toxins into the groundwater. By identifying the source and spread of a disease, the disease can often be combated.
What is a 100-year flood?
A 100-year flood refers not only to the size of a flood, but also to the odds of it occurring. A 100-year flood has a 1%, or 1 in 100, chance of occurring in any given year. It has no relationship to the frequency of occurrence. The magnitude of such a flood is relative to the frequency of occurrence. So a 100-year flood is much larger than any run-of-the-mill annual flood. A 500-year flood only has a 1 in 500 0.2%. Chance of occurring in any given year and would be much larger and more devastating than a 100-year flood.
Did everyone during Christopher Columbus's time think that the world was flat?
No, they did not. Though the common perception is that Christopher Columbus had to convince King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella that the world was a sphere. Columbus actually had to convince the king and queen of the circumference of the world. Though the ancient Greeks had discovered that the earth was a sphere, centuries passed before this was generally accepted. By the 15th century, however, the time of Columbus's sailing, most educated people believed the world to be round.
How can I learn more about disasters in my town?
Each community should have its own disaster plan that includes a history of past disasters. Those that have happened in the past are likely to occur in the future, along with plans for dealing with future disasters. You should be able to consult this plan to learn how your community would cope with disaster and to find out the locations of evacuation routes and shelters. Many communities place important disaster planning information in the telephone book for easy reference.
Why is Greenland considered an island while Australia is a continent?
Australia is 3.5 times larger than Greenland and comprises most of the land on the Indo-Australian plate, while Greenland is distinctly part of the North American plate.
Why isn't Taiwan recognized by the U.S. government?
The People's Republic of China has had a dispute with Taiwan since the nationalists, who were fighting the communists on the mainland, fled to Taiwan at the end of World War II. Decades later, as China became more powerful in the eyes of various American political administrations, China gave the United States a choice: recognize China or Taiwan. But not both. The United States chose China, although officially not recognized. Taiwan is one of the United States' strongest allies in the region, and one of its most significant trading partners. Taiwan has very close official and unofficial ties with the United States.
What are some of the oldest, continuously inhabited cities in the world, and when were they established?
Some of the oldest cities still inhabited today are Jericho, Palestine, founded 9000 BCE, Byblos, Lebanon, founded 5000 BCE, Damascus, Syria, founded 4300 BCE. Aleppo, Syria, founded 4300 BCE, and Susa, Iran, founded 4200 BCE.
What monetary unit is used in Panama?
The currency in Panama is called the Balboa, after the explorer Vasco Nene de Balboa. Because Balboa established the first European settlement in Panama.
How can GIs help my town?
Your community can use GIs on a day-to-day basis and in emergency situations.
Which non-island nations have the fewest neighbors?
There are 10 non-island countries that share a land border with just one neighbor, Canada, neighboring USA. Monaco, France, San Marino, Italy, Vatican, Italy, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Portugal. Spain, Gambia, Senegal, Denmark, Germany, Lesotho, South Africa, and South Korea, North Korea.
What was Zimbabwe's previous name?
In April 1980, the British colony of Rhodesia was granted independence and renamed itself Zimbabwe. Rhodesia had been named for South African businessman Cecil Rhodes.
Does the Earth spin at a constant rate?
The rotation of the Earth actually has slight variations. Motion and activity within the Earth, such as friction due to tides, wind, and other forces, change the speed of the planet's rotation a little. These changes only amount to milliseconds over hundreds of years but do cause people who keep exact time to make corrections every few years.
What did the phrase 54-40 or fight mean?
In the mid-19th century, many Americans wanted to see the United States territory expand northward into the area now known as Canada. The phrase 54-40 or fight referred to the desire to move the boundary northward to 54 degrees 40 minutes north, which would have encompassed much of southern Canada. Ultimately, the boundary was fixed at 49 degrees north, where it sits today.
Which countries are members of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization?
The 26 members of NATO include Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Italy. Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Turkey, the United Kingdom, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and the United States.
Is global warming melting the North Pole?
Yes, from 1979 to 2005 the North Pole region lost 2.05 million square miles of total area. 5.31 square kilometers, which is equivalent to an area the size of California and Texas combined. These changes have not been seen since between 6,000 and 125,000 years ago.
What is the Three Gorges Dam?
The Yangtze River will soon be the site of world's largest electricity generating facility. The Three Gorges Dam. Construction began in 1994 and should be completed around 2009. The construction of the dam requires the relocation of over 1 million Chinese living upstream of the dam, as the rising waters will flood towns and archaeological sites. The reservoir will be approximately 600 miles, 965 kilometers long, spanning the Yangtze River in Sando-Uping, Hubei Province, China. The dam will be about 600 feet, 183 meters, high, and 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers, wide. When operational, the dam will produce 22,000 megawatts of power. More than 8 times the power produced at Hoover Dam in the United States. The environmental impacts of the dam are now being felt, with increased drought, less rainfall, and mudslides that can endanger the millions of people who live nearby. More than 1.2 million people were relocated from the area, and 116 towns and cities were evacuated in order to complete the project.
What was the French community?
Only a viable association during the 1950s and 1960s, the French Community, also known as Communauté Française, was an organization tying together the former French colonies with France.
How old is the Earth?
The Earth is approximately 4.6 billion years old.
What is an economic tiger?
An economic tiger is a term applied to any rapidly developing Asian nation with the power and ability to become an influential, international economic powerhouse. South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore are considered to be the three economic tigers. Hong Kong was once part of the Pacific Rim Group, but since its merger with China, it can no longer be considered an economic tiger.
How salty is seawater?
About 3.5% of the weight of seawater is salt, not just sodium chloride or table salt, but also potassium chloride, calcium chloride, and other types of salts. This would equal just over 3 1/3 cups of salt in 1 gallon of seawater.
What are the 5 smallest states?
The 5 smallest states are Rhode Island, 1,200 square miles, 3,108 square kilometers. Delaware, 2,000 square miles, 5,180 square kilometers. Connecticut, 5,000 square miles, 12,950 square kilometers. Hawaii, 6,500 square miles, 16,835 square kilometers. And New Jersey, 7,800 square miles, 20,202 square kilometers.
Is there any permanent ice in Africa?
Though located within 3 degrees of the equator, there is ice year-round at the top of Mt. Kilimanjaro, 19,340 feet, 5,895 meters, in the air.
How important is China to the biodiversity in the world?
China's territory covers 3,705,390 square miles, 9,596,960 square kilometers, of land. This vast expanse includes a wide diversity of wildlife, as well as 10% of the world's plants with stems, roots, and leaves. Therefore, China's policies for managing its natural resources are very important for the health of the planet.
Mongolia's density is limited because only 1% of the Y is the Aral Sea shrinking?
The area of the Aral Sea, located on the border of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, has been reduced in size by 1/2 since 1960, though it was once the world's 4th largest lake. Diversion of its feeder rivers for agricultural purposes has severely shrunken the lake. This shrinkage has exposed soil saturated with salt, which now destroys plants and vegetation across the nearby plains. Country can be used for agriculture, the remainder of the country is dry and used for nomadic herding. Mongolia was originally established in the 13th century, when Genghis Khan overtook and unified much of mainland Asia.
Are there still glaciers in the United States?
Yes, small glaciers exist throughout Alaska, within the Cascade Range of Washington state. Sporadically across the Rocky Mountains, and also in the Sierra Nevadas of California.
Which African country is the world's leading producer of cocoa beans?
Côte d'Ivoire, also known as the Ivory Coast. Named for the large amount of ivory collected from elephant herds that once roamed the country. Produces 37.4% of the world's cocoa beans, the beans used to make chocolate. It produces more than 1.3 million tons each year. Ghana produces another 20% of the world's total. And both Cameroon and Nigeria contribute 10% to the total production of cocoa in the world. This means that nearly 70% of the world's cocoa beans are grown in Africa.
Does Yugoslavia still exist?
In 1991, the republics of Yugoslavia fell into disarray and aligned themselves on ethnic and cultural fronts. The old geographic divisions of the country fell apart, and war broke out between various states, including Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, and Serbia and Montenegro. Later, in 2006, Montenegro and Serbia also broke apart, and both declared their independence as separate countries in a referendum. Most recently, Kosovo unilaterally declared its independence from Serbia in 2008. Thus, over the course of just 17 years, 7 new countries were added to the map of the world.
Which is larger, clay or sand?
A single grain of sand is 1,500 times larger than a grain of clay.
What was the Ottoman Empire?
The Ottoman Empire began as a tiny state in the 14th century. It was centered in the city of Bursa in what is now northeast Turkey. And it rapidly expanded through the conquest of neighboring states. Its greatest expansion was in the 16th century, when it included southeastern Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa.
Where is the center of the contiguous United States?
The geographic center of the lower 48 states is located at 39 degrees 50 minutes north, 98 degrees 35 minutes west. Approximately 4 miles, 6.5 kilometers, northwest of Lebanon, Kansas.
Was Cuba ever a part of the United States?
The United States went to war against Spain in 1898 to assist Cubans who were rebelling against Spanish rule. The United States took control of Cuba during the Spanish-American War in 1898 and held it until 1902, when Cuba was granted independence. The three-year military occupation by the United States ended with an agreement that the United States would be allowed to lease Guantanamo Bay, which the United States still uses as a naval base.
Who's fighting over the Falkland Islands?
The Falkland Islands, also known as Islas Malvinas, located near the southern tip of South America, have long been a source of conflict between the United Kingdom and Argentina. Though the islands have been occupied by the British since 1833, Argentina has claimed the islands as its own since the 18th century. In 1982, Argentina invaded the islands, but the British regained possession within a matter of weeks. Argentina still claims the Islas Malvinas and is pursuing its acquisition through diplomatic channels.
Where is Greater Syria?
Some Syrians, Lebanese, Jordanians, and Palestinians see the boundaries of their countries as artificially imposed by colonial rulers, and hope to see a united Greater Syria composed of the four areas.